Oh, hey, you're back. Well, good, because I got more to show you. Tonight, we're making a dent on the 3GM30F. And tonight, we've made quite a bit of progress so far. In fact, I'm getting ready to do even more. We're working late tonight, mostly because it's the middle of summer, and my circadian rhythm is screwed up anyways from working years on the ambulance and swing shifts at every truck shop I ever worked at. So, you know, sleep is for squares. But I figured I'd make a dent while I can. I'd take you guys along for the ride. If there's anything specific you guys want to see, let me know. And we'll get started. Alright, here she is. This is a Yanmar 3GM30F. This is one of the engines purchased by my customer down in California. It was a Craigslist find, and we are cleaning it up for her so she can repower her boat. As of right now, the only thing installed is the camshaft, and so I'd like to make as much of a dent assembling this thing as humanly possible, so we're going to get started with this crankshaft here. And that means I've got to get main bearings replaced, get the crankshaft installed, and the rest of the rotating assembly. Now, as I get started installing the first of the main bearings on this crankshaft, you're going to notice something subtle, as I did, and it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. As I'm assembling these two bearing caps together, trying to screw the screw in, I'm noticing that the caps aren't fitting quite right, and, you know, I've been very careful to keep everything in the same orientation, the same order, everything. And I don't know why it took me 2 or 3 times before I was like, you know, maybe the caps are backwards. I should go check the manual. And sure enough, the caps were backwards. And they had been installed mismatched by somebody previous to me. So never assume the way things are installed is correct or the factory way, because it may actually be wrong. Now, the light bulb hasn't, you know, obviously lit up yet, and you can see me just kind of trying out a couple different things, and they're not working. And I finally come to the conclusion that there's an issue. I knew something wasn't quite right. That's why I wasn't tightening things down tightly. So never force it. If something in your gut is telling you that it's not fitting correctly, listen to your gut, because it's right. And sure enough, this time my gut was right, and it saved me from ruining one of these main bearings. So, but still feel kind of dumb, because it would have been really easy to literally take 5 steps, go read the manual, look at the pretty pictures, and then assemble it correctly. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh my gosh. The bolts go in so nicely. What a concept. One interesting note that I'm seeing here is, according to the manual, this guy is the right orientation. See the F and the 2 arrows? The F, according to the manual, they want it facing towards the flywheel, not the front. And the way this engine was assembled, somebody has been in here, because this was how it was assembled before, which is mismatched. They actually had this backwards, which explains why that wasn't fitting right when I went to take that apart. I know, I'm a genius. You can hold your applause. It's no big deal, really. All right. Let's finally get this stuff assembled so we can get this stupid crankshaft in the engine block. now that our crankshaft is in and rotating beautifully, time to install our rear main seal assembly. So I'm going to pop the old seal out here, get the bearing out, get all the new pieces put together, and we'll get this thing installed. This is the rear support for that crankshaft. And so it is another one of the main bearings. It just doesn't look like a common main bearing that you'd see on like a larger engine, but it's just as important. Alright, our rear main seal and final main bearing are installed. Now for our transmission bell housing adapter. And so this guy's pretty easy to install. It's like 6 bolts, couple dowel pins. It's only going to fit one way. And I believe these are torqued to like 18.1 foot-pounds. So pretty light torque. And then we can get our flywheel put on after this. Well, now we've got a little balance to our step. It's time to install pistons. And today, this engine was really fighting me on a multitude of things. Piston number 1 really didn't want to go in. I kept catching the top compression ring outside the ring compressor. I'd start tapping it in, and sure enough, that ring would pop out. And it took a couple attempts here. Glad I didn't break a piston ring. I was trying to be careful, but still. Finally got it in, and then, of course, the other cylinders followed suit. So I'm not a complete fraud, I promise. But today sure put me to the test. I'm not sure why this engine was fighting so hard the whole time. Now, of course, I've got to say this because we're assembling an engine here, but keep everything clean. So every failed attempt with this piston, the crankshaft bearings, whatever it may be, you got to take it apart, clean it up, re-lube it before you put it back in. Because if you get lube in the wrong place, if you get dirt and dust from, it not going so well, just clean it up, take it apart, do it again until you get it right, and hopefully you don't break anything in the process. So we finally got this damn piston in, and now I can attach my connecting rod cap and move on to the other ones. So we're going to torque these. These aren't torqued super high. I want to say they were around 30-ish foot-pounds, if I remember right. And, once we're done with that, then we can move on to getting our oil pan assembly put together. Tonight, I have to say we are making excellent progress. I'm really, really happy to have the rotating assembly in the engine, oil pan on, and she's finally able to sit upright on her pan. Now we're working on the front gear housing. I've got the timing gears aligned. There are really obvious marks. Of course, the manual will tell you how to do it too. Just make sure they're aligned if you want this thing to actually start. Right now I'm just torquing the oil pump bolts. I pre-lubed it with oil. I lost a bit of the footage where I actually had to put the crank shaft gear in place. I was kind of bummed because I wanted to show you guys how to time it, but it's pretty straightforward. There's literally only one set of timing marks. So if you're struggling with it, just look at the manual and it will lay it out very clearly for you. All right, time for the most glorious homemade tool ever. My extra super duper long socket for the governor assembly on these Yanmars. I'm really proud of myself. I made it all by my Wednesday Savvy. This governor is a flyweight assembly and really, really simple, really, really cool, 100-year-old technology. And it works very well. As the engine spins faster, those flyweights are going to spin outward and actually kind of bring up, there's some sliding pieces on that shaft that will push against another lever that will actually slow down the engine. So the engine's self-regulating in the same fashion that steam engines were. So really interesting technology. Every engine has something like this. It's just buried under covers where you can't see it. So the days of the flyball governor are gone, but we still have flyweight governors hidden within our engines. There's your random fact of the day. Well, if you guessed it, here's what the tool is actually for. It's for adjusting the skinny nut on this governor assembly. Yanmar actually makes a proper socket for this, but, you know, my socket is way better anyways. So I'm going to get this torqued. I think the torque spec was something like 78.6 foot-pounds. So I've actually got a block of hardwood in there. I think I was using Purple Heart against the flywheel to keep the engine from turning. And then I'm going to just keep cleaning up things as I go, getting them put into place, and we'll get this gear housing assembled. I lost the footage of actually sliding the gear housing on. I'm sorry about that. The phone kind of died and I didn't realize it had died. So the gear housing will magically appear at some point. But if you are wondering, it is not hard to install. It does just slide on, so it's pretty straightforward. One final clean and lube, and then I'll slide the gear housing on, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. And boom, all put together. Man, Meredith, how are you so fast and amazing? I know, I can't help myself. The engines just assembled themselves for me. Either way, I'm getting a raw water pipe put on, or a coolant pipe, pardon me, and then we'll work on our injection pump here. Here she is, one freshly rebuilt injection pump. This engine was stored outside, and we don't know any of the history. However, we sent this injection pump and the injectors out to a local place called Seattle Injector, and they are wonderful. So any of you guys local to the area, check them out. They do amazing work. And they informed us that the pump had water in it or going through it, as well as the injectors. And sure enough, down the road, as I got into the fuel system, cleaning it up, I found lots of evidence of rust. So in these cases, the shims are shot. Those shims are cruddy. And so I've got another set of new shims here that we're going to replace those with. And with shims, you want to take precise measurements. So what shims do is they sit underneath the injection pump and they raise or lower the height of the pump in relation to that cam gear that the pump rides on. So if the pump is sitting lower, that cam lobe is going to push the plunger of the pump higher, essentially, pushing more volume or more fuel for each bolus during the cycle. So if I wanted a performance engine, I would essentially trim shims. If I wanted less fuel, I would I would add more shims. So in this case, we want to remain stock. The manual doesn't really give you any specs for this. So I did see the engine run on video prior to the purchase, so I knew it was running decently in terms of not too much fuel. So we're going to match what was there, and we should be good. Once our shims are in place, now I can set in my pump. And the pump has a rack in it that slides, and that rack has a pin that sticks out that needs to engage with an arm, a lever arm, and the lever arm will have a slot, so make sure that rack and that slot line up. When the pump first is sat down, if you look closely, it's going to look like the pump is kind of sitting at an angle. That's okay because it's just sitting on top of that camshaft. As you torque down the nuts, the pump will level out. This particular area of the gear housing is real close to the front of the heat exchanger, which houses salt water and can sometimes leak, so I love to use anti-seize on all the hardware in this corner, just to make it easy to remove in the future in case we need to service it. Now we're down to putting back together some of the access covers and our stop lever assembly. And so this access cover also is the mount for our idle adjustment screw. And then the lever will rest against that, the fuel lever, essentially your throttle. And so that's where all that is housed. So that's what I'm lining up right now. And then once I'm done with this, there's a rear access cover, which you can't quite see yet, that will also go on. Well, that's it for tonight. It is very early in the morning. I've managed to make a ton of progress, and I'm really excited about that. This engine's going to be out the door soon. I will finish up and, of course, film that for you guys so you can see the rest of it going together. If there's anything in particular you want to see for future videos or any ideas that you have, let me know in the comments below. I always love getting to answer people's questions, and if there's an example in the shop that I can show you of how something works or how it comes apart or goes back together, I'm happy to show you. This engine went together a lot quicker than I thought. In fact, I got the vast majority of it built tonight, which takes a lot of stress off my shoulders. It's going to be on its way out the door soon, meaning I can move on to other things and even look forward to taking a break. I've been really, working pretty hard on getting these engines kind of through the shop the last couple of months, and so I'm happy to see them finally coming together. They're looking good, and I'm gonna catch a break hopefully soon. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will plan on seeing you guys in the next one.